out there in the Zoom world. Um, so to start, for those of us who are joining us for the first time, I'm going to talk a little bit about posture and why it can impact some pain that you get when you're in a prolonged posture for an extended period of time. Um, so basically, when we have pain that is due to posture, it is not so much being in a specific posture that's bad that causes the pain, but it's being in a specific posture for too long of a period of time. And many times when we're sitting in front of a computer screen, which many of us are these days, the shoulders tend to come forward and the head starts to come forward. So from the side, it looks like this. Right? The shoulders are forward and the head is forward. So generally, whenever we have pain that's in the neck or the shoulders from postural deficits, our goal is to incorporate some stretches and exercises that open up some of the muscles in the front of the chest and the shoulders, strengthen some of the muscles in the back to hold us into a better posture while we're sitting, and then work on some neck mobility because the neck gets really stiff when we're sitting in that posture for a prolonged period of time. Um, it's also common to have headaches that originate from neck posture. If your neck is sitting forward, it can close down on some of the spaces in the back of the spine, and the muscles that attach from the base of the skull to the top of the spine actually get shortened. And so you'll find that you can get headaches that typically are a pattern of kind of like a ram's horn. They wrap from the back of your head around. And if that's the case, then it's possible that the posture that you've been in has been contributing to some of the headaches that you're having. We're also going to go through some exercises that work to loosen up the hips and the back. Oftentimes, you can get low back pain from sitting in a certain position for a prolonged period of time. And many times the hip flexors get really tight and the glutes get weak because they're sitting in a position where they are not at an advantageous spot. So we're going to work into some hip extension and things like that. Last time we went over how to set up a chair properly for best setting yourself up for proper posture while you're sitting. And you should have availability into last week's video. If not, just let me know at the end and we can figure something out. All right, so the first thing that we're going to start with is an exercise to loosen up the neck. We started with this one last time and I really like it. I think it's important and it's also easy to do while you're sitting. So for starters, we're going to start with 3 neck stretches. So this first one arm behind your back like this. You'll take the opposite arm and pull one ear directly towards your shoulder. And we're going to hold this for 30 seconds. You should feel a stretch on the outside of your neck here. All right, and we'll switch to the other side. The reason I like to have one arm behind the back is because it pins down the shoulder blade and prevents the shoulder blade from lifting up, which will reduce the amount of stretch that you'll get on the side of your neck. All right. Now this next one, same starting position, one arm behind the back, but this time we're going to pull down at an angle, and this is going to target a specific muscle that attaches to the outside parts of the neck, of the bones in the neck that protrude out to the side, and to the tip of the shoulder blade. So this one, head directly towards the opposite armpit. All right, and switch. All right. And the last direction we're going to do same starting position, arm behind the back, but this time we'll be pushing gently into rotation. Awesome. So this next one, I like to do against a flat surface, against an open wall. But if you don't have that, that's okay. I like to use it for postural cues. So to have the glutes up against a wall, the back against the wall, the back of your head against the wall. If you don't have it, that's okay. But we're going to do what's called a wall angel. So it's basically the formation of a snow angel, but just standing. So I'll demonstrate that. We'll do 2 sets of 10 repetitions. Basically, you want to try to keep your posture nice and straight. So your head shouldn't come forward. You should keep your core engaged the whole time. And we're going to come up and over your head like this, which is great for scapular mobility. And I like to do this one standing. Awesome. So after 10, you can give it a little rest, and we'll do 2 sets of that. So after a bit of a rest, we'll do another set of 10. You can begin those whenever you're ready. Try to keep your head up nice and tall, as straight as you can when you do this one. Very good. Form looks awesome on all of these. Wonderful. So the next one that we'll do will we use a corner or an open doorway, something that you can put a flat surface of your arm against, and this one will be a pec stretch. As I mentioned before, when you're sitting for prolonged periods, your shoulders tend to come forward and the muscles in the front get really tight. And what that does is it puts the muscles in the back at a lengthened position so that they're not in a good place in order to do their job properly. So the next one will be a pec stretch. We're going to do it on both sides and holding for 30 seconds. So standing up against a doorway or a wall, a corner, with the wall flat against the arm, you're going to come forward like this. And I can show you what that looks like over here. So from the side, it'll look like this. And from the back, it'll look like this. So you can do that in any doorway or against any corner. So I'll give you about 30 seconds and then I'll let you know when to switch. All right, you can go ahead and switch. You should be feeling this stretch right in the front of the chest. Awesome. Very good. So we'll let everyone come on back. Now the next one that we'll do will be on our hands and knees. And this one will work through a little bit of thoracic rotation, which is really important for both shoulder health when you're going through and doing things on a day-to-day, as well as posture health. So we'll be on our hands and knees. One hand will be on the back of the head, and we're going to rotate as if we're looking up. And I'll demonstrate what it looks like. So we're going to do that one 10 times on each side. It shouldn't be a very big motion, but you should feel the muscles in the back start to work to get your spine to rotate. That looks awesome. Form looks perfect. Again, we'll do this 10 times on one side and then 10 times on the other. Great. Awesome, just a few more. The important part of these exercises is the fact that you're getting movement in all three planes of motion. And what I mean by that is you're getting motion that goes forward and back, side to side, and into rotation. So a lot of these stretches and movements that we do try to address all three planes of motion. And that's important because normally you use all three planes of motion when you're doing things on a day-to-day basis. And part of the reason why that thoracic rotation is important, for example, if you're going to go reach up into a cabinet, it's very rare that you sit there and very slowly and very straightforward go and reach something. Normally, you're using a little bit of rotation, you're going forward and into the side. So you need to be able to get into all of those motions in order to be able to use the muscles properly. If not, it can lead to some impingement and some shoulder issues. So the next one will be in a similar position. For those of you who participate in yoga, it'll be the child's pose position. So we're going to have our arms out in front, and we're going to sit back onto our heels. And we're going to do this twice and hold it for 30 seconds. And I can demonstrate for those of you who aren't familiar. All right, let's give it a rest. And after a few seconds, you can go back into it. We'll do it once more. I love this one because it gets a little bit of thoracic extension in there. So the middle of the back gets extended a little bit. And then we're really stretching out the lats and getting the shoulders up above the head. All right, and you're good. Awesome. So this next one can be done in three different starting positions, depending on the difficulty that you'd like to have. It works a little bit of shoulder stability and a little bit of shoulder and thoracic middle of the back movement. So the easiest way to do this is on your hands and knees. The second easiest way to do it would be against like a countertop or a table or a desk or something that's kind of hip height. And the hardest way to do it would be on your toes and hands, kind of in a tall plank position. What we're going to do is reach forward with our arm, reach out to the side with our arm, reach underneath, and then rotate. And we're going to do that 10 times. And then we'll move to the other shoulder. And I'll demonstrate what that looks like. Again, the tall plank position is the most difficult. So first you're going to reach up, then you're going to reach out, then underneath, and then rotate up. And then what I like to do is alternate. So I will do 10 left and right alternating. So left, right, left, right, left, right. So 10 on each, but alternating. So again, that's straight forward, out to the side, underneath, and then rotating up so that you're looking up towards the sky. And doing this on your hands and knees is great for getting the mobility. It's a little bit more difficult to do the stability work. This looks awesome. Everyone's form looks good from what I can see. So far, so good. Again, this one is working shoulder and middle of the back movement in a bunch of different planes, forward, side to side, and into rotation. Just a couple more. Should be finishing up. All right. So we'll let everyone come on back. All right. So this next one that we'll do, we'll focus on some shoulder retraction strength, and it'll target some of the muscles in the back that help to hold us into that upright posture. So this one will be standing with a slight forward bend so that the gravity will be pulling us down. We'll be using the middle and lower trapezius muscles. And we're going to do 2 sets of 10 of pulling back and holding for just a second and then back down. So this is what it'll look like. I like to have 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. We'll pull straight back, pinching the shoulder blades together, and then back down. Awesome. After 10, you can take a little breather if you need to. And then whenever you're ready, you can go back into another set of 10. We'll do 2 sets total. Awesome. Looks good. The next stretch that we're going to do, you can complete sitting. And I like to show this one because it's an easy thing to do at the desk and it works on hip mobility. It's called a figure 4 stretch. In order to obtain a little bit stronger of a stretch, you can do this one on top of a table, or you can add a little bit of a forward lean. So we'll demonstrate, we'll do 30 seconds on each side. Get out of the sun here. So you'll have 1 foot up on the opposite knee. Now, if your hips are really tight, your knee may start up here, and that's okay. I want you to gently push down until you can feel a stretch on the outside of the hip. And we'll hold it for about 30 seconds. I'll let people get set up into position if they need to. If you feel like you need to get a little bit more of an aggressive stretch, you can lean forward with this one. And again, I want you to be gentle. It shouldn't be painful or anything like that, but this really helps to loosen up some of the rotators of the hip. All right, so after about 30 seconds, you can switch. So for those of you that have started, we'll go ahead and switch sides. Now, as you can see, my right hip is a lot more tight than my left hip. And so I can only really get to about this far on this side, which is normal to have a little bit of a different side to side. Something I should probably work on. Tension in the hips can often cause low back pain as we go and move throughout the day. If there's not enough mobility that's coming through the hips, the glute muscles can become underpowered, which are really strong muscles which we use to propel us forward. And when that happens, increased stress can go to the spine, as well as if we're moving and we're not getting the motion that we need to through our hips, that motion has to come elsewhere in order for us to accomplish our goal, oftentimes coming through the lumbar spine. And we're good on that one. So let everyone come on back. The next two that we're going to do will be a variation of a lunge. And so you'll want a little bit of space. The first one will be a lunge forward with a little bit of rotation. And what this is going to do is put our hip into a little bit of internal rotation. And what that'll do is help to load up the glute muscles, and kind of give us that. It's almost like imagine it as a coil effect. So in order to have a spring produce force, you need to stretch it out and then it'll eventually go back. But without that stretch, there's no spring. So that's what that internal rotation is for. So the first one will be a lunge forward with rotation. We'll do 2 sets of 10, 1 set of 10 on each leg, okay? So you'll step forward and then we're gonna rotate over the leg that's forward. So if your right leg comes forward, I want you rotating to the right. I choose to alternate, but you can do one side at a time, or you can alternate. Either way is fine. Doesn't have to be a huge step if you feel like you're losing your balance. Very good. Form looks great. Awesome. Very good. The next one that we'll do is another variation of a lunge. This one is going to be a lunge to the side with a reach to the side. And what that reach is going to do is put a little bit more weight. It's going to shift your weight over the leg that's over to the side, forcing you to use the muscles on the outside of your hip a little bit more. And again, we're going to do 10 repetitions on either side. And it'll look like this. And you can notice how my weight is shifted over the leg that's to the side. So it doesn't look so much like this, but more like this, right? Where this weight now is driving right through the leg that's lunging off to the side. Awesome, looking good. Very good. So that hip rotation, which we went through earlier, is the cause of many people's low back pain. So a lot of the people that we see here in the clinic have a limitation in that hip rotation. So that's why part of that is, or that reason is part of why I just went into that. The other one would be hip extension. So sitting for a prolonged period of time is going to shorten your hip flexors, which is going to reduce your hip's ability to get into extension. Those hip flexors attach directly to the lumbar spine. So the next thing that we're going to work on is some hip extension mobility. So this one you'll do in a half kneeling position. And we're going to do this one for 30 seconds, and we're going to throw a little bit of rotation into there to add a little bit more of a stretch. If it bothers your knee, it's helpful to kneel on a rug or a pillow or something that's softer, a blanket, so that there's not so much direct pressure coming through your knee. But this is what it'll look like. you'll be in a half kneeling position. And you're gonna roll your hips underneath you like you have a tail and you're tucking it between your legs. You should feel a stretch on the front of the knee that is down. If you need to feel more of a stretch, you can rotate to the side of the leg that's forward. So once you feel a good stretch, you'll hold it for about 30 seconds, and then you can switch sides. All right, if you haven't already done so, you can go ahead and switch. Awesome. We'll come on back. So the next one that we'll do, we will be on our backs, and we'll be taking one knee and bringing it towards our opposite side shoulder. And you should feel a stretch in your glute of the leg that you are bringing across. This will bring in some lumbar rotation as well as some hip flexion and side bending here. So this is what it'll look like. We'll do it on either side for 30 seconds. So again, you're bringing your knee towards the opposite side shoulder. So on this side, it'll look like this. All right, and if you haven't already done so, you can go ahead and switch. All right, awesome. Very good. So this next one that we'll do, we'll work on getting the lumbar spine into a little bit of extension. So for this one, you can go from laying flat on your stomach is the starting position, up onto your elbows. If you feel like you need a little bit more of an aggressive stretch, you can come up onto your hands. Once you get up to the top, I want you to take a breath out, and I want you to feel your low back sink towards the floor. And then I want you to return to the start position. And I'll demonstrate what this looks like, but you'll go from flat, either up onto your elbows or up onto your hands, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And then you take a breath out at the top, and that's going to extend the lumbar spine even more. And then you come back down, and we'll do 2 sets of 10 of this one. So starting completely flat, you'll come up onto your elbows or onto your hands, and then take a breath. And you can see my lower back sink further towards the floor. And then we'll go back down. Right, so you can take a rest after 10 if you feel like you need it. And we'll do 20 of those total. From those who I can see, the form looks great. Awesome. So as people are finishing up, let you come on back. Looking good so far. So the next one that we'll do will be a variation. I think last time we went through for those of you who were here last time, we did a squat or a mini sit to stand. This time, if you have something that you can hold in your hand, that's great. You don't have to have anything in your hand. But sometimes I'll have my patients hold some weight in front of them or a water bottle, anything that kind of brings their hands out in front. We're going to go from a squat into a press up overhead. So it'll look like this. We'll do 2 sets of 10. So feet about shoulder width apart, coming down as low as you feel comfortable, and then coming up to press. You want to make sure that you're driving your hips forward when you come up. So from the side, it'll look like this. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Looks awesome. Form is looking good. Awesome. All right. So the next thing I'd like to show you is kind of a variation of the child's pose that we did before. That one's really great because it gets a stretch underneath the shoulders and the lats and allows us to get our arms up overhead, which they don't normally do, especially when we're sitting in a position, a straightforward position for a very long time. And if you have a chair at your desk that you're using, whether it's a rolly chair or not, you can easily do this one. I'll demonstrate with a chair over here. So what I like to do is have my hands flat on the surface that's in front of me, whether it's a desk, and then slowly slide my hips back. And what I want to do is allow the middle of my back to sink down towards the floor and then allow my shoulders to come up into flexion. And we'll hold this for about 30 seconds, give it a rest, and we'll do this twice. I wanted to show you guys this one because it's another easy one to do at your desk while you're sitting there. right. If you haven't done so, you can take a rest, and then we'll go into it one more time for 30 seconds. Looks good. All right, we'll let everyone finish up and come on back. All right. So we addressed a lot of different things today with some of the exercises that we went through. Some middle of the spine or thoracic mobility, some shoulder mobility and some neck mobility, as well as hips and for low back. All things that are that you're capable of doing around the house or at your desk. Really, and I touched upon this before, but the most important thing is making sure that you schedule consistent breaks. I like to say every half an hour, set yourself a timer or incorporate it into what you're doing. I know I have some family members who are teachers, and so my sister is an elementary school teacher, and she's able to kind of build in a move around break about every half an hour for some of her students. And I know the format might be a little bit different for some of you guys, but that's worked out really well for her. And at this time, we're going to open up for any questions that you might have. So you can either turn on your microphone or we can go into the chat. And what I'll do is provide you guys with my email in case you think of something for later that you might have to ask.
Those stretches felt good. Thank you.
Anytime. Anytime. You guys were awesome. Make sure I have my right email here. Those people's. Yeah. So, I'm pretty sure we can get last week's video sent out to people. I'm not sure if the easiest way to do that is to put your email in the chat or if to have it sent through someone. But we can figure that out for sure.
Can you put it on the Health Matters website?
I'm not sure. Let me.
I think I saw some of them there already.
I know that they're recorded, so there's
Oh.
definitely a way that we can get them to you. I'm not sure which the easiest way would be. We can figure that out.
Thank you.
Anytime. Anytime. Awesome. I'm glad you guys liked it. Let me see. Yeah, so this is my email in case if you think of any other questions that you have. Right. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. And feel free to reach out to me via email that I just posted in the chat.